The only way this persuasion like actually lands is when you can align people's self-interest with a common goal. Yeah, man. So how was the reach outs, man? Like, are you? It's kind of gave me some feedback. Did you get some responses already? Like,
So
what's up with that?
no responses yet. And I've been looking at the sales handy stuff, and no responses as of yet. But I'm confident they're coming soon. I've
Is it?
been right before the call. I had a strategy call, and then right before I try to like send off I only got off four so far for today for the dentist office or the cosmetic dentistry field. So I was like looking at the website a little bit, adding like a personal touch. I started off with just like low hanging fruit that I could build momentum from. I used the dental offices that I've been to here in San Diego to just share in the experience that I had with them, how more people get to experience that themselves, and yada yada. So that's been going. I realized that once I build the momentum, I'm really good. I'm able to really, get stuff cracking. It's when it's the build up, and that's what I'm realizing. Okay, you get to continue leaning. Oh shoot, can you see me? Oh shoot, you can't even see me. My bad, bro. I'm sorry about that. I thought that was on the whole
It's
time.
cool, man. We not live yet, man.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's all
My
good.
bad. But yeah, so just realizing that, for me, it's um once I build up that momentum, and I'm realizing now it's just like embrace the suck and just figure it out, like put on some like binaural beats or something that's going to allow you to focus and like calm down and just get to it. So this weekend has definitely been a radical shift for me, in the sense of like I told, if you're the master of enrollment and I suck at enrollment, bro, like I'm going to hound you to figure this stuff out. Like I realize that is the only thing I need to focus on for my business this year is sales and marketing. Like, yeah, content creation goes under that, or content creation gets intertwined with that, But as far as like understanding how to master like sales and I man, let's just say this weekend it was some powerful feedback in a different way. It almost felt like ALA again, where you realize like, dang, this is really how I'm showing up in life, without even realizing it, and without getting too down on myself about it, just allowing that competitor to come out of me. I just realized like, you know what, man, like you get to figure this stuff out, bro. Like you get to challenge yourself in the area that you've been holding off on challenging yourself in for a while. That's, as you know, that's sales, that's outreach, that's all that. So I'm just like, screw it, bro. I don't care if not that I'm gonna. I think that's been my biggest thing is just feeling misunderstood and burning bridges and people thinking that the heart that I have for them is gonna be misaligned with the way I'm reaching out. But I realize it's like no one can feel that way if you don't reach out anyway. Like you essentially are screwing yourself over from the get go, and then you're on the back end. The from the feedback and everything. Like you're hurting. And this is this. You're not helping anybody. You're not helping. You're not saving anybody. You're not doing anything. Even in my own personal life, I'm not helping anybody by me being in this weird little, sales racket, ego box, whatever you want to call it. So it's like, bro, get out of that. Like suck. Go through the suck. If that means that vomit on the phone or whatever it is, you vomit on the phone, but you get to figure it out. And as I start doing that more, I've even taken some quick feedback and realized like, man, there really is a space right now regarding strategy for me. After talking to Ray, I still have to send her the follow up. I'm gonna send that over today. But after talking to Ray, even getting her feedback, I actually had a homeboy of mine that actually runs a production company up in LA. He's been in. I had that was a strategy call I had today actually. And it's crazy because it was like first time I was ever mind blown because like I actually got to see his process and I'm like, bro, what are you on a, because in my mind initially I'm like, what are you on the phone with me for, bro? Like you're doing, I was like, how much did you guys just do last year? He's like, oh, we just like we barely clipped like 750 grand. He's like, that's the first time ever, because the year before that we did 250, and then the year before that we did like 60. And so I was like, what the, like, are you kidding me, man? Like, I thought you were hitting this like all the time. I didn't know that this is just like like you've been making leaps, year after year over year. And so while we're talking, a lot of the stuff that I talked to like you about or someone else about, like, is the same stuff that he's dealing with. And then on top of that, it comes down to sales. And I'm like, what the, like, so you're telling me that an entire group of creatives have like a really big issue with sales? He's like, bro, like, I swear I've only worked with like five clients. Like, so we're over here talking strategy, all these different things of how he can, increase his business. But in doing so, I realized that it's like, dang, narrowing it down, it all comes back to like sales. And that's just having like an issue regarding creative control and sales. Those are the only two issues that I see creatives have. And so it gave me a lot of clarity, because I realized, like, dang, he's on the phone with me. He doesn't even know what I did or didn't do last year in my business, but yet he's over here scheduling a $250 an hour call with me just to pick my brain and to see what other strategy and breakdowns I can help open up for him. There was some feedback over this past week is regarding that as well. Like, dang, I've really been holding back on adding value to people, because I've always thought it had to be simply video production and marketing in order for me to be able to do business with people, not realizing strategy is something that they really need. So
this is interesting, man.
Yeah.
This is interesting, dude. Like, a lot of people like struggle with sales, and it's crazy because the story that I hear often is they think a problem with sales looks like a problem in their operations or a problem in marketing, when really, like, marketing is just used to amplify sales, and operations are used to amplify sales, right? So that you can get more sales. It's usually made to make your sales more efficient so that you can keep adding more fuel to the fire, right? And it's kind of crazy because, like, the ego is like or confirmation bias, or it could be a whole plethora of different psychologies, but like, usually the thing that we struggle with the most is the key to most freedom. And it's usually the thing that we don't talk about that's like the elephant in the room, right? Like, I think the funniest thing when I speak to business owners, dude, I actually laugh about, like, I literally, like, oh my gosh, like, being a person who has enrolled over 2,000 people, like, when I talk to a business and a business owner or someone who wants to be an entrepreneur, and they're struggling to make investments in their own business, like, it could be something, honestly, anything below $1,000, anything below $5,000 is like not a lot of money when you look at the grand scheme of things of running an operation. And they're like, you can see the twitching and the like uncomfortableness of them investing in themselves. And it's like, man, look, if you can't invest like $1,000 in your business or time into your business, how do you expect your clients, the people that you want to enroll, to invest 10 times the amount of time or money, right? But you know what I mean? Like that little psychology switch. And then the other thing too is like, when it comes out to enrollment, man, is like, dude, like when you master enrollment, like every interaction becomes a sales opportunity. Literally, dude. The grocery store, the library, a co-working space, the bar, the cafe, right? Let alone like you doing a podcast, and if you're doing like there's no like quick get rich, or there's no like, oh, just put up a couple ads and shoot some videos and run a funnel and all these things. So it's like, man, like all that stuff is meant to scale. It's not meant to stabilize a business, right? And it just blows my mind, bro. And like the psychology, I think the psychology thing is huge, man. And because I used to be in that situation myself, right? Like I don't know, like especially if you don't have guidance, you have nothing to compare to. And I think those moments in entrepreneurship are important, because I told one dude, I was like, man, you're gonna laugh in like 2 years. If you're still in the game, you're gonna laugh at moments like this. You're gonna laugh at moments like this. If you're still in the game, you're gonna laugh in like 2 years. If you're still in the game, you're gonna laugh at moments like this. 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 You're gonna laugh at moments like where like you spend 3 days to make a decision. Right? You take 3 days to make a decision. I mean, like some big decisions, like, yeah, I mean, like you want to take time if you have a process, but like analysis paralysis is like pretty prominent, you know. And so, yeah, man, I'm a big believer in getting shots on goal, dude. Like everyone sucks at enrollment when they first begin, unless you're just a charismatic, like freaking like person who's just have been doing enrollment in other ways. Like anyone can be good at sales, anyone can be good at enrollment. It's just a matter of like putting reps and being very intentional, right? It could be as something as, it doesn't have to be like you practicing enrollment in the business. It could be something as small as, you know, you know what? I'm going to enroll someone to buy me coffee, right? I'm going to enroll, you know, someone to volunteer with me. I'm going to enroll like all my friends to come to my favorite restaurant at the same time for like an event without it being a special occasion. Like it's just persuasion, right? And the only way that persuasion, man, this gets deep, but the only way that's persuasion like actually lands is when you can align people's self-interest with a common goal. Like, so, oh man, this gets deep, man. So like, for instance, and dude, I did a lot of deep work today, by the way, a ton of deep work. And it started to land for me big time, even like, I mean, huge, man. Like I felt like my internally, like my clarity, my certainty, everything just like exponentially grew today. And like just these doors started to open up in like my being and my feeling because of this one thing. And actually just talking right now kind of really created this epiphany in terms of how it relates to sales, which is like when you're so clear on your purpose, your values, and your mission, and when you align that mission, that purpose, and those beliefs to what's in the best interest of the people that you want to serve, then like that is like the perfect recipe for one wins, man. Right? Like they know why you're doing what you're doing. Right? And you're doing what you're doing is a direct correlation or direct like a alignment with what they want. Right? Like Apple's purpose and mission is like they want to create the greatest products in the world with that greatest experiences that's eloquent, that you know, that's sticky, right? And people obviously is in alignment with that because they want to also have the metal, you know what I mean, like the greatest quality, you know, like they want those things. So they're willing to pay for it. Right. So like that was like a huge epiphany for me, man, especially today, because I did a lot of vision work, a lot of purpose work, what's my mission, and like really taking a zoom out and you know, getting clear on the direction. And it just like, man, I could see how this correlates to sales because it creates certainty. And certainty is the most important thing in sales and enrollment. Like you got to be certain as a mug, right? Like there's no like breathing room for like certainty if you want to collect a bag. Because no, like why would someone like if you're nervous about fulfilling something, if you can hear it in your voice, like why would I give you even $1? Or let alone my energy, my time. Like, wow, like you don't sound so certain that you can help me, man. Right?
That's crazy. That's crazy. Because I remember the voice message I sent to you. Excuse me, the voice message I sent to you this past weekend was exactly that. And that's why I got pissed at myself because I was like, because when you said record, I mean for the people listening, Desmond challenged me this past weekend to record myself actually talking to someone and pitching them or giving them my offer or presenting them with an offer, and just to hear and kind of dissect my way of being in that moment. And I sounded like, oh man, I went from sounding like this to sounding like this. Like I didn't know what I sounded soft. I sounded like I literally was like, oh, I wouldn't even buy for me. Like like, what are we doing? And I felt bad because I'm like, I'm doing this. That's when I think that's when I started taking it personal, but taking it personal in the way of like motivating me. Like, I swear I will never be in this position ever again of being so uncertain about myself and so lacking so much confidence within myself that I let down the people that are here to help me and the people that are here to support me. Because if I can't get behind my own self of what I'm saying, they for sure can't get behind what I'm actually trying to do, and what it is that I'm pitching them on, as far whether it's a vision, whether it's just like you said, just asking for to buy a coffee or whatever else, and especially within this challenge, that's 5K, so you asking people like whatever you can do to add value to them, they're like, are you sure you're confident you can add value to me? Like, that's the feedback that I received from a nonverbal standpoint, because when you're asking me a question, you're responding, but then as soon as I respond back, you don't say anything and I don't hear anything from you. I'm thinking, okay, I did something in that process of communication that made you feel like I was uncertain in myself of maybe where that money was going or what that was going to be exchanged for, or how I was going to be able to, add value powerfully to what it is that I said I was going to add value to, and let's dissect that. Or even when I even threw it at you, he's like, okay, do you even know what my business is? I'm like, oh yeah, it's in sales, right? It's like, okay, bro. No, let's take a step back. Let's pause for a minute. And that's how I was like, oh shoot, I'm really uncertain. And I'm just like a shotgun, just throwing everything at the wall, seeing what's gonna stick. And that's like the most disingenuous thing you can do when it comes to sales and it comes to enrollment and just connecting with people, And so that was like my first lesson of like, oh my God, man, like you've become the thing that, or you're operating in the very thing that you fear. Meaning, I don't want to be that guy that seems like I'm so transactional. And I think that's the story that I've associated with sales and enrollment. Because, I don't want to say because of certain things, but I come from a background where it was always hard sales. Like, you're pretty much shoving stuff down people's throat. You're beating them to the punch. You're punching them in the head, verbally or figuratively speaking, when it comes to objections, because you're in mortgage lending where things are so hot and fast. And it's just like, get off the point. I don't want to talk to you. Like, okay, so I have to do something to gauge your attention and to show that I'm different than everybody else, And so coming from that place, I've realized I've created bad habits. And like that book, Atomic Habits, talks about is more so of replacing a bad habit with a good habit rather than making it about you're this bad person, So that's when I'm in this space now where I'm even hearing you talk about it and talk about like the fact that, and knowing that you've gone through this, journey yourself, or this sense of transformation yourself, I'm realizing like, because this weekend I'm like, I didn't have the best self-talk. I'm not gonna lie. Going into the new year, I was like, this is something I definitely get to change. I don't get to keep this. I don't get to keep this negative self-talk coming, man.
Bro, here's a hack, bro, real quick, because it took me a year to figure this out. Mm-hmm. And I think this is super important. It's just going to be super hard to implement. I don't want to plant that in your unconscious mind, the audience, or you, Josh, but I just want you to be prepared to like be consciously aware of this and to come back to this. And this is, yes, you have to lose in order to have contrast. You going through this situation help you create contrast of your way of being, so now you know where to pivot. Now, in order to make a great pivot, you don't focus on what not to do. Because if you consume yourself with what not to do, all you're going to do is like keep either doing it or not focusing on what you need to do. So like in these moments of losing, you're going to review the tape. You're going to say, okay, this is what I don't do. Now, you got to use that information and reframe, okay, what do I get to do? And then you focus your energy on that, right? Like you got to like kind of, I hate to say it, but you have to, I wouldn't say bury what not to do, but it doesn't need to be your first order thinking. Because if you focus on what not to do or all the bad things that could happen, then that's what you're going to consume your energy, your unconscious thought patterns. It's like you're just feeding what you don't want to be fed, right? Like it's okay to be pessimistic, okay to be cautious, okay to be, some form of paranoia, in the business, because you got to stay alive, right? Like you got to keep the business alive. You can't just be optimistic and like, woo. spend all the money and they'll make no money. No, you got to be consciously aware, but you don't want to be consumed in that being your first order thinking. Does that land? Like,
Yeah, that makes sense.
so yeah.
Would love to ask, or in response to that, are there any maybe exercises, or I know you're big on NLP, so like, are there any exercises, like ways of like maybe grounding, priming before going into that space where it's not so much of what you, um, uh, not focusing on what you shouldn't do? The reason why I say that is because, I mean, coming from a sports background, it's very easy to focus on, like, for instance, when you're watching film, you're really watching film on two things: tendencies and where you messed up. You're not watching film on what you did right. You're watching film on what you did wrong and how you can clean that up. So with that, I guess in a way you're imprinting in your subconscious mind the fact that you did mess up and how you messed up. It's how you shifted, I guess, from a um uh not, I forgot the way of learning, how we kind of like learn on the go. It's using that, but at the same time, this is also a different area, but maybe the same type of principle from what I'm hearing you say. Is there any sort of maybe exercise or grounding technique or something that you do before you go into that space where you don't go down the weeds of what I did wrong and stay in that subconscious sunken place?
Yeah, man. There's definitely a few things, but I'll just kind of keep this super basic because I'm all about super simple, stupid. I'm a big believer in writing things down, right? Like, if you're an entrepreneur out there, you don't have a journal or a Notion or a notepad, then you must have someone walking around with the bag, right? Walking around with the pad and like writing all your thoughts down. I don't know how as an entrepreneur you can survive without notes. And so what I would do, man, is I would write down all my things I learned. This is why it's like, this needs to be like almost daily, if not like weekly at the bare worst. At the worst, some people maybe even monthly if you're really good at organizing your notes. But I'll just write down like the lessons you learn, like the wins and the losses. And I would always like, this is like the 1%, like the slight edge approach of like, what can I do better not to repeat that? So like you're actually turning like what you learned into like a positive a step into the right direction. So first of all, I'll write a list, right? What did I learn? It could be good or bad. Like it's subjective, right? It doesn't matter. Like what did I learn? I learned not to do this. I learned to do this. I learned not to do this. I learned this. I learned this. I learned this. And then I would then correlate it. I'll write like, okay, well, what can I do? Like what tactic can I do or implement in my daily, weekly, or monthly rituals within my business to move the needle in the right direction of my goal based upon that? So like if you learned, like for instance, I'll use me for example. I learned that not having purpose or mission for your business can affect the longevity of a business, right? So like, I was like, man, me not having a true mission, like a real core mission, like fucking like rock solid values within the business, like clearly stated, will probably mean my business won't be like great, long lasting, right? Like 100 years, right? So, okay, well, what can I, like, now that I know that, like, what can I do to move in that direction? Okay, first, tactically, take the time to sit down. What is your values? What is your purpose? What is your mission? Does this align? Step 2 of my tactic, shared with my team. Do they agree? Step 3, align my company's website, my, my presence online, internet to be in alignment with that, right? Step 4, make an easy way to go through a major decision matrix, add my core mission, purpose, and values to my decision-making matrix. So don't make any more big decisions without running through these, does these fit within my values? Does this fit within the purpose? Does this fit within the mission? And step 5, okay, go through my goals. Okay, does my long-term goals, medium-term goals, short-term goals, are they in alignment with my mission, right? Is this person I'm going to do business with, do they align within my values? Or, do they align with the mission? Right. So like changing my filter, right? So that's me changing my focus from, wow, I'm missing this one thing, to, okay, how can I like tactically get in alignment with what's in the gap for me? So you have to be very micro. So like saying that you're bad at sales is cool, right? Or enrollment, that's feedback, like that you're brutally honest, but then you have to break it down to like, what am I specifically struggling with? Right. And then come up with a plan. Okay, how can I like shift that like tactically? Like what, like how can get creative, right? Usually some of the answers might be, like if you're like, man, I'm afraid to talk to people. Well, you might have to say, yo, I need to go talk to 100 strangers right now. Like go out in the fucking streets downtown and just start talking to random people for half a day, if that's what you struggle with. If you struggle with asking for money, man, maybe you need to go sell suckers on the side on the street, or go sign up to be a canvasser for a fundraiser, and just not do it to make money, but do it to put yourself in uncomfortable situations, to practice acts for money, right? Like there's so many different creative ways. And the only way that you can find tactical solutions to help you fulfill the gap is if you're radically honest with what the gaps are and not lying to yourself. Oh, I'm okay. It's all good. I just had a bad day. I'm just off today. Or you know what? I'll figure it out. You know, usually when you say shit like that, it's usually something in there that needs to pivot or change.
Wow, that's yeah, I appreciate that feedback. Thank you. Yeah, that's a lot. I took notes and everything. I'm scribbling all over the paper, man. That's wow. Yeah, that's clear.
Dude, yeah, I think there's a lot to this comes back to like, dude, I just had such a powerful moment today with doing these vision, values, and purpose exercise. Like I had so much value from it because like being a sales consultant, that's my main thing. What I'm trying to create, which is CXO Republic, which owns Campfire Capitalism, this podcast, and another brand, Emergency Sales Tactics. And I plan on like my big vision is like I want to, we're gonna get deep, but um, let me unpack this before I go into specific details. But so one thing I was like realizing was like, dang, how am I gonna like? I noticed that like the clients that are tough to help in sales are the clients that don't have a proven offer and don't have a mission, values, or purpose. Like when the mission is very clear and the purpose of the company is very clear, it makes it easy to figure out what's the best offer. You know what I mean? Then once the offer is validated and it's proven, then it's just sales is just a math equation at that point. How many people do you need to talk to get X amount of dollars? That's it. And then how you get to those people is a whole nother equation. That's part of the master equation. But how many people you need to talk to make X amount of money? Right? Like that's sales, dude. Like it's super simple. How many people you need to talk to make money? That's it. And man, not having a purpose or vision is huge, man. So like, I think that I'm even going to add that to my process when I deal with clients, right? In terms of sales, like they gotta have a mission state. Like they gotta be very clear why they're in business. And if they're not clear, then you're going to have to either pay for a strategy session or you have to find out your own before we do business together. That's kind of my new criteria now on doing business with people. It's like, why you exist? It can't be just to make money because that's not going to be long lasting. And I want long lasting relationships with my clients. Right. So like, that's a new like filter for me. Doing that exercise today, I was like, man, dude, I'm like, man.
Yeah, that's powerful, bro. That's funny that you say that too, because that's something that I realized. I was listening to, who was that? I was listening to, Oh my God, I'm forgetting it. But I was listening to someone yesterday, and they made that statement, and they said you can make as much money as you want, but oh, that's what it was. So a guy named David Shands, he runs a podcast called Sleep. I believe Sleep is for Suckers. He was talking to his like his podcast partner, uh, very sharp woman. She was saying how for her New Year's goals, she set up something where with her one of her coaches, where she wrote down the goals. She wrote down exactly what it's going to take by when, and also the um, not punishment, but what would happen if she didn't accomplish that goal. And her, I guess, the repercussions of that would end up being her paying her podcast guy David 10 racks for if she didn't accomplish the goal, which I believe it was making $1 million in a day um, by a certain time frame. And while they were talking about it, they said they're talking about how environment is key, and also environment is key to understanding whether your goals and the dreams that you have are too small, and if you're thinking too small, if you're thinking big enough. And one of the things that she said in there was exactly what you had said, where she said after a certain point you make so much money that you realize it's not about the money, because money is never a motivator in that as much as you think. Because you have a lot of people that say, "Oh, I'm money motivated," and I'm blah 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 blah. But at the end of the day, it's not about the money. It's about what that money's providing for you. If you come from a background where you didn't have nothing, and you knew that you always had to get up, and you always had to, get up and grind and get it yourself, that money is really a motivator underneath, based off of fear or based off the fact that I will never go back to where I was before. Right. So it's a motivator in a different way than it's an innate motivator in a different way than you think. And so she was saying how when she realized that when she had made $100,000 in a day, which was her previous goal for 2021, and how, or her name is Donnie Wiggins, if I'm not mistaken. But shout out to Donnie. But we'll get them on the podcast at some point soon. Speaking that into existence, bro. But one thing that she said, I love that she said that, was like, I learned that when I made 100 racks in a day, because I thought it was like, oh man, it's gonna be this amazing, thing. She's like, it didn't feel any better than when I made $1,000 in a day or $100 in a day off my coaching product. And so she said from there you realize real quick that money is a means to it can be a means of survival, it can be a means to an end, it can be a means to having more options in life. Whatever that definition is for you, it just brings potential possibilities. But she said with that, you can never be as motivated with money as you think. It's always what the money is going to provide, or what it's going to protect from, or what it's going to open up doors to. Whether that's family, whether that's friends, whether that's just yourself and a sense of security, whether that's a long-term vision. She's like, most of the time, people that do bigger things and go from good to great, in a sense, they end up attaching their vision to, I'm sorry, their goal of accumulating it or generating a certain amount of money or revenue into their business, with a long-term vision that's actually meant for other people other than just themselves. And that's actually one of the things that Heather and I talked about the other day. Was she was asking me a couple questions about like who I am, how I show up, and like where's this guy at? Like he's here, but he's not there. Like he shows up in certain situations. And I told her, I was like, one of the things that I've realized is ever since I stopped playing football, is part of me felt like, I know a lot of athletes can relate to this, but like part of me felt like a small part of me died when I finally hung up the cleats from football. And I think that's one reason why it was so tough for me at that time to get rid of it. And in that process, I realized that I had to reinvent myself in a different way. I had to really come into myself in a much bigger way than what I've been held accountable to, or I held myself accountable to previously. And in doing so, I realized that my why and my motive and my purpose in a way had to shift. It had to change, and then going down that path, I also realized that the people that I get to serve, the value that I get to add, and the business that I get to build only gets to be built off of the new sense of purpose, not the old sense, meaning it can't be driven by the money, the cars, the women, the boop, just having that platform of an athlete. It has to be something bigger than that. And in order for me to obtain that, it has like my mindset around money and my mindset around influence have to change. So hearing you say that, it definitely, rings true to a lot of stuff that's been coming up lately. Cause I realized that, like, since I come from a team atmosphere, and that's the point that I was making, since I come from a team atmosphere, I realized that when I'm working by myself, I essentially am like, I almost feel like I'm plateaued, or I have to like try to prime myself, or I have to biohack in some way to get me motivated. But when I'm doing it for other people, where I know that there's at least one other person that's counting on me to show up or to make this thing happen, like, it puts me in a different mental where I'm like, okay, like, let's go. Like, I'm not gonna let you down more than me just not letting myself down. It's a weird shift how it's happened, but that's something that I have noticed as of recently, from just taking more time of, like, just understanding what's going on within me, and how I can really grow and influence the world in a much bigger way, and hold myself accountable to those results that I get to bring, which I think is why I took it so personal when I realized that this past weekend that, the feedback that I got was that I'm not showing up in a way of community. I'm showing up in a way of, I guess, lone wolf, or being the individual, where you pop out of nowhere and then all of a sudden you go back in your hole. You pop out, it's like, okay, what is this? What does this dude want? I'm getting kind of tired of you just popping up out of nowhere. I have no understanding of what actually goes on in your life, So I definitely get to shift in that. And that's a big part of enrollment from what I've heard. And honestly, from the transformation that I've even seen in you, I realize that's a big thing. Like, I don't know a single person that has connected with you, especially within the last year, that has been able to tell me something that I've never heard anybody actually say something that doesn't about you, that doesn't revolve around like networking or community or communicator, or like, he's always giving, man. Like, he has this different sense of like drive about him, where he gives, like, all he does is just give. He gives. Doesn't matter if he gets it back. It's coming back to him at some point. But man, like, he's all about community and just like building his network base. And I'm like, that is something that I realized that I've gotten away from and that I drastically need right now in my element of growth, in this new stage of who I get to be as a business owner, as a brother, as a significant other, as a friend, as a son, whatever. In every area, I realize that's one thing I definitely need. So yeah, I'm getting a lot of aha moments right now.
Bro, I think the next thing you need to do once we get off this pod is do the 5 whys exercise. Straight up. Like, it could be with your goals. It could be with like what, like, your way of being. Like, I want to be, if you want to be giving, you got to ask yourself why. You got to dig deep with like, and ask yourself why 5 different times. So like, after you answer the first why, then answer another, then answer another, answer, like, figure out what's that core reason. And that's going to help propel you like forward to get below the surface of like what it is. Like, for instance, I'll unpack this on the pod because we're building it in public. Why not, right? This is just from the parent company. This has nothing to do with the podcast, but the podcast needs to be in alignment with the parent company, right? And so for me, I'll start off with the values. The values are humility, grit, integrity, empathy, innovation, right? Purpose. The first thing I written down was provide content that over delivers on value to all stakeholders, right? Internally, externally, whoever's involved, it just over deliver on value to everyone, right? Pay people well, all the things, right? Give my audience amazing deals with joint ventures or top-notch, sponsorships, whatever happens, it needs to be in line. But then I asked myself, why is that important? And I was like, well, access to easily digestible content that drives results on the bottom line, right? And then I was like, well, why is that important? Then I said, if business owners who listen to this content drive results in their business, it provides economical opportunities to those involved, and they will continue to pass on those lessons. And I was like, well, why is that important? The more economical opportunities that are provided, the more jobs and capital is being circulated, and allowing others that are up and coming a solid foundation to grow on. And I was like, well, why is that important? And I was like, it's viable for society to progress and to leave the system better than how they found it. And I said, well, why is that important? Legacy. At the end of the day, we all leave this planet, and that the only thing that we leave behind is a legacy and impact we create in the world. And I was just like, okay, that's why I'm in business. That's my purpose. Deliver value that sparks legacy for recipients. That's the purpose of CXO Republic. That's it. 5 whys. Started off with providing content over delivers that leads to deliver value that sparks legacy for the recipients, right? That's deep, right? That means I'm providing so much freaking value that it's rippling deep, 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 deep. So, and then that translated into a mission state or a big hairy goal, right? Which is from, Be Entrepreneurship 2.0. Highly recommend reading that book, which was like, okay, what's the goal, right? That's in alignment with that purpose. Portfolio of 100 brands, because we want to buy brands and businesses. That's the goal. Like that, I want to build a portfolio of companies. And I want to be in 100 companies around 100 countries around the world with a direct impact in the lives of 100 million people. Money, time, nor expertise will be used as an excuse not to get value from the portfolio companies that CXO Republic will, right? Oh, now we're getting deep. So the total mission statement I have here is: we will deliver value that sparks legacy for recipients with humility, grit, integrity, empathy, and innovation. Our goal is to directly impact 100 million people in 100 different countries with 100 brands in our portfolio. Super. Like, I don't know how the hell I'm going to get there, but that's the mission, right? And every decision and goal needs to be in alignment with that mission. 5 whys, bro. 5 whys was deep. Shout out to Jim Collins, right? 5 whys are deep.
Yeah, I'm actually going to do that when I get off the phone for sure, or when I get off the podcast for sure. Man, yeah, there's some.
It's deep, bro.
Yeah, there's definitely some gluing I get to do within the business of making sure, because I realize that a lot of stuff I've been doing has been chasing a bag rather than being able to. I mean, not in, for lack of better phrasing or better words, attracting the bag based off of who I get to be and how I get to show up consistently in the world with clarity and with confidence. I mean, you've seen my development the last year alone. Like, I'm definitely proud of like the places that I've grown from, but I'm like, man, you still lacked a sense of clarity and direction, and what you're like hyper focusing on. So like that's why I said, like, this is giving me a new sense of drive to where even the other day I was like, screw it, bro. So I went up and I even bought this book because I'm over here like, whatever I can do to just figure this stuff out, man. I got to keep moving in that needle and growing in that. So yeah, there's definitely some clarity. There's definitely some confidence that I get to build, and confidence only comes from clarity and actually understanding and seeing the vision and land before you embark on out at sea, to be honest. So I appreciate that exercise. I'm definitely going to be doing that for sure.
Dude, yeah, man. And when you're doing this deep work, like another epiphany I had today that was huge was let my winners ride while I focus on this, right? So like one thing I was trying to do was like, I have my consulting business as a standalone thing. And I'm like, well, how do I change my consulting business to fit into my new business? And I had this epiphany of like, I don't need to change shit. What's working works, and don't change what's working. And then focus the energy on what's the new thing, right? And so for you, man, I don't know whatever's working, like whatever with your existing book of business or whatever you got going on, but like let whatever's working work. And like, if you're going to pivot the business or create something new or whatever, like, it's like, that is its own thing. That was huge for me to realize. It's like, man, I'm like, I don't need to change what's working. Even in like, first I got a real estate, we have a real estate property, and the tenants, this group home, they, are having some financial issues. And so we're collecting the last rent payment, and we're like, who the guy who's running it, which I'll get him on the pod here soon, who's doing all the management and all of the stuff of it. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to, like, once we're going to sell the property and make a profit off. I'm like, well, you know what? I'm not going to take that money. I'm just going to let it work. I'm just going to let it work. Let it ride. Let your winners ride. Right. Crypto, same thing. Like, I'm just going to, like, whatever is in that bucket, I'm just going to let it ride. Right. Like, not over like revisiting things, whatever stocks or investments, long-term investments I have, I'm just going to let them ride. And I'm going to spend my energy and my time on what I want to create. Like, whatever my active income is, I'm just going to let it ride. Right. Like, all this new energy, this new creativity is like, okay, what's the long-term vision, right? Like, what's the long-term vision? What's the long-term plan? So I wanted to share that, man, because as your finances get more complicated, right, and your time gets more complicated, it's easy to be in the weeds, and like, it's hard to discern from, it's hard to discern, and things get convoluted. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I need to take money from here to do it this. Like, especially within the business, like, oh, I want to explain the business this way, but I need X amount of money. Unless it's like a super high conviction, like in alignment with your vision, you're very clear, like, then sure, like, that, go all in. But if you're just like a lottery ticket, like, I'm a big fan of, like, you don't need to invest any money into the business or into a new idea until you prove it. So that you have a high conviction path of, like, okay, if I know I put X amount of money in, I'm getting X amount of money out. Right. Obviously, you have your own operations and cadence and things like that. But so I just wanted to share that, man. So, like, under $1,000, anyone can start a business. Here's where I'm getting at. Right. And, if you understand your pains and understand your goals, and what's in the gap to get there, like, then you can invest in your business. Like, okay, how can I get there faster, or help me? The likelihood of me getting there, is more clear with the solution than by myself. So mentorship, courses. I'm not a big fan of courses. I think they're just, man, I hate to say this because people might be selling courses on this, which, hey, I might have a course too one day, but I just don't think courses are effective to get people desired outcomes. I think most people buy them and put them on the shelf. Like, hey, you got to sell them because some people need to buy them to realize that they need to hire someone. But I'm a big believer in hiring people, or at least hiring someone to give you direct knowledge with your specific situation. Like, I think courses, they're great. Don't get me wrong. They're a great starter, but I don't know how many people listen to courses, watch courses, and actually, like, crush it. You know what I mean? And the more busy you get, like, in the business, it's like you just don't have fucking time. Like, you're literally, opportunity cost is like, man, I don't even want to get into it, but you're paying more in time than you are actually paying for it, in my opinion. That's why I'm not a big fan of courses. That's why. But that's just me, man. That's my rant. I know that this turned into an accidental pod. Just me and Josh. It's great. And I like these impromptu pods because I think it's important to be super transparent, because the audience, you guys are going to get like a bird's eye view of like 3 different people and 3 different stages of life and 3 different stages of business. And we're in this to play for the long run. And hopefully when we get to episode 100, you're like, damn, you guys came from, man, I remember episode 10, which today's episode 10. Right, 90 episodes ago, right? So hopefully things are totally different, for episode 100. And we had a lot of fun today. So don't forget to share, subscribe, review, rate, all the things. If you're going to be on the pod, feel free to go to campfirecapitalism.com. And let's play on the pod. So I had a lot of fun with you guys. Just also kind of give you guys a heads up. We're going to be going live here pretty soon, doing live recordings. And we're going to be coming out with specialized content in certain areas. So like Josh might be coming out with like how to do video production stuff. I might be coming out with some sales training, crypto stuff. Heather might come out with her own things, but we're going to come out with some micro content for you guys between 7 and 12 minutes. So look out for that. So cheers. It was nice. Peace.